Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us here today. My name's Anthony Soares. I'm the director of the Centre for Cross-Border Studies. And once again, I'm delighted to say that we also have with us Ben Rosher, PhD candidate at Queen's University Belfast, and also a research associate with the Centre for Cross-Border Studies. And Ben will actually be going through the detail of this particular presentation, and I will hand over to him shortly. But I am just going to share my screen with you all. Here we go. So, as I was saying, you're very welcome to be tuning in to this, which is the presentation of the results of our 13th quarterly survey on the conditions for North-South and East-West cooperation. So this survey is for the period 1st of January to 31st of March 2024. So it's the responses from around North, South and East West cooperation for that particular period, and perhaps what happened during this period. Ben might reflect on how they may have influenced the responses quite naturally. So you're very welcome, as I said. I just wanted to reiterate a few things as I've done in previous presentations of our quarterly survey results. The reason that we do these quarterly surveys is so that they give us an understanding as to the extent to which the necessary conditions for North-South cooperation are being maintained, and how relations between civic society and organisations and local authorities in the island of Ireland and Great Britain are being safeguarded. So that's the kind of East-West dimension, following the end of what now seems like a long time ago, the end of the Brexit transition period and the beginning of the implementation of the protocol on Ireland, Northern Ireland. I suppose you can now say stroke Windsor framework after that. So it's just really to see, to give us an understanding of what it's like for those who are involved. So for civic society organisations and local authorities on the island of Ireland, what it's like for them in terms of their cooperation between the two jurisdictions of the island of Ireland and or between the island of Ireland and Great Britain. And the reason that we do these surveys, just to remind everybody, and why we're aiming it specifically at civic society organisations, local authorities, rather than a wider kind of constituency, is because back in 2017, when the UK and the EU undertook a mapping exercise of North-South cooperation, so this big mapping exercise looking at what was going on in terms of North-South cooperation, both sides, both the UK government and the European Commission, later in technical notes that they published, stated that areas of informal, local and community level cooperation may not have been captured by that exercise. Now, to that was rather worrying, because we know that the lifeblood of much cross-border cooperation is precisely at that informal, local, community level, community levels that cooperation takes place. So if it was missed in that mapping exercise, how can those areas, that level of cooperation, be protected going forward? So we were very keen to target through these surveys precisely that kind of local community level cooperation. And again, as I've done in every other presentation of these survey results, I want to express our gratitude to all those who've responded, especially, and now it's like the majority, especially those who responded on a recurrent basis to our quarterly surveys. It's absolutely fantastic, and we're really, really grateful for the information that those respondents provide to us in terms of how it's going for them, for their North-South and or East-West cooperation. But we do need people's ongoing help in responding to future surveys so that we can raise issues that are important to those who are involved in that North-South and East-West cooperation. And again, just a reminder, this isn't a kind of process that is going to end tomorrow. This post-Brexit landscape is still being shaped. It really is a marathon. It's not a sprint, and so we need people's assistance on an ongoing basis in order to really enable us to protect the necessary conditions for cooperation, both on a north-south and an east-west basis. And really, I want to stress here that the information that's provided to us, it doesn't just sit in kind of research briefings that we publish, reports that we might publish. We actually use that information proactively, both by ourselves at the Centre for Cross-Border Studies and also with other organisations that we work with, particularly through the North-South and the ad hoc group for North-South and East-West cooperation, which the Centre convenes. We bring issues that are coming through in those quarterly surveys to those who are responsible for the implementation of the protocol on Ireland, Northern Ireland, Windsor Framework. So we do repeatedly bring those issues to the attention of both the UK government and the European Commission, and try to find solutions to any issues that people are encountering, or even issues that people are saying these can be potential obstacles going down the line. So there might not be obstacles right now, but it's things that people are saying this could be problematic for our north-south and or east-west cooperation activities. So I'm now going to hand over to Ben, who's going to take us through the detail of the responses then to this 13th quarterly survey. So I'm going to hand over then to Ben. Over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Hello, everybody. As always, hello to those of you who have joined us before, and welcome to anyone joining us here for the first time. And today I'm going to give a general overview of the results of the 13th quarterly survey, and a fuller analysis is available in a research briefing, which should be on the website just about now. Basically, I'm going to give an explanation of the data and a breakdown of the respondents to this particular survey. And then I'll head into the substantive parts of the analysis, particularly around the experiences and perceptions of cross-border contact, cooperation and collaboration, both in the north-south and east-west dimension. Now, as will become clear as we go through the results, this is the first survey we've conducted since the return of Stormont, and this had a very, very significant and positive impact on the results. And so we'll talk through those as we go through, but it's quite nice to be able to bring some positive news to the proceedings. So in this round of the survey, 97% of respondents have completed at least one previous round of the survey. And as Anthony says now, because the survey has been repeated every quarter since the start of 2021, we have a very high number of repeat respondents. And this means we're in a very good position to infer the shape of some trends regarding the views and experiences of the protocol and post-Brexit landscape with a good degree of clarity. Now, all of these insights are further bolstered by the qualitative responses. So there's lots of open text responses which allow people to provide more nuanced insights into how they are specifically experiencing the changing political, social, regulatory, and material environments. And this is invaluable in painting a more detailed picture of the current context for cross-border collaboration. So as Anthony says, these results don't just stay with us here, they get fed up to policy and decision makers. And so having this level of detail and these very specific cases to feed back up is really, really valuable in helping to develop this work. And as always, we need to appreciate that the respondents to this survey all have a wealth of insight and expertise of cross-border and cooperation and collaboration. And so the results need to be borne in mind that the feedback here is provided by experts in the field. So in terms of the respondents to this survey, the data has been collected by a survey of self-selected respondents between the 1st of March and 12th of April 2024. We've got 30 respondents in total, and as I say, 97% of those have completed the survey at least one previous quarter, and many have completed several previous surveys. For this round, 57% of respondents are based in the Republic of Ireland, 33% based in Northern Ireland, and 10% having a presence on both sides of the border. And so while there is a slight weight in favour of the Republic of Ireland, there still is a generally good balance between the two jurisdictions. If we look to the north-south dimension first, in this quarter, 90% of respondents report having meetings with partner organisations in the other jurisdiction on the island of Ireland. So 90%, that is almost all of our respondents are engaging north and south. And for 43% of respondents, their level of contact this quarter has been the same as the previous quarter, and it's increased for 47% of respondents. So it's the general trend that we see for the north-south dimension. It still remains very robust in terms of the level of engagement we're seeing in people trying to cooperate and collaborate in the north-south dimension. 85% of respondents reported that meetings with organizations in the other jurisdiction discussed challenges to cross-border cooperation, and this was either on occasion for 52% or to a significant extent for 33%. And so, while the forums for these challenges is a good thing, it is still somewhat problematic that so much time has been spent on problems arising from the post-Brexit environment. The nature of the challenges discussed were varied, but they focused particularly on concerns around lack of funding and issues arising in terms of cross-border work and travel. And one respondent said that related to immigration law, the fact that there are two different jurisdictions and two different immigration regimes with two governments to influence can make collaborating more difficult. And we also have recently been discussing the impact of proposed EU legislation restricting organisations who receive third country funding, which could capture Northern Irish organisations receiving UK government money who work north-south. And so there are some very concrete potential issues coming through. As Anthony says, they're not necessarily issues right now, but being able to scan the horizon and see these things coming over means that we are in a position to shape them and direct them to ways that are designed to avoid these problems before they become manifest. Now, at present, 87% of respondents are currently involved in cross-border collaborations with a partner in the other jurisdiction, and 77% of respondents are actively considering new collaborative projects. So again, North-South dimension is very healthy and robust in terms of this level of engagement. 54% of respondents who are presently engaged in cross-border collaboration reported that they were receipt of funding for those projects, and the predominant source of funding from those, so 45% of respondents said that their funding for these cross-border projects came from the Irish government. If we look now towards the perceptions of the contextual environment for cooperation and collaboration north-south, 90% of respondents believe that the political context for cross-border cooperation has improved on the last quarter. 90% of respondents have reported an improvement, and 10% say that it stayed the same. For the first time since we've conducted these surveys, not a single respondent has reported a deterioration in the political context. Now, unsurprisingly, when we've asked respondents to develop on these answers, they pointed almost unanimously to the restoration of the Northern Ireland Assembly as the reason behind these improved conditions. Respondents have said that the restoration of the Strand 1 institutions offers some positive hope for North-South collaboration, and another said that the resolution of the NI impasse and the renewal of the Assembly has enabled partners to re-engage on joint ventures, projects and funding opportunities. So very, very strong positive messages coming as a result of the restoration of Stormont. Looking to the social context, 50% say that it's remained the same on the previous quarter, and 47% say it's improved. And again, no respondent has said that the social conditions have deteriorated over the previous quarter. And again, the reason for this renewed optimism is attributed primarily to the restoring of Stormont. Somebody has said that the political breakthrough can help societal collaboration mood, and that there are more Northern Irish NGO and other organisations now seeking enhanced cooperation and funding. If we look to the regulatory context, 67% say it's remained the same on the previous quarter and 7% say it's improved. So not so much sense of an improvement, but again, no respondent has said that it's deteriorated on the previous quarter. One respondent said that the new executive and some certainty or acceptance on Windsor Framework and dual market access has improved confidence. Another said that openness to the positive future of the island of Ireland in both directions and improvements have been enhanced and will continue positively and significantly. And I just want to take a moment to note the change in language we're seeing in this survey. Generally speaking, even when there are positive perceptions, they tend to be tempered. It's rare for us to see this just outright positive outlook and embrace of what the future could potentially hold. And so this is really, really promising. If we look to the material context for North-South collaboration, 75% of respondents believe it's the same as the previous quarter. Only 3% have reported a deterioration and 10% say that it's improved. One respondent said that for voluntary and charity sector, securing of small amounts of funding has helped to make discussions on collaboration a reality. The 3 public infrastructure projects announced with commitments to the Irish government and British government funding is positive. Increased construction costs are highlighting the reality and impact of political procrastination and non-decision making, so there's still a lag. And it's not great for confidence in public decision making. But another said that they have spent 40 years actively engaging with the growth of Ireland, both north and south, and this is highly likely to increase over the coming years, building on the future of the Northern Irish and Republic of Ireland based on the engagements, which are increasingly positive across all areas. And so we've also asked respondents for any suggestions they have for improving the conditions for cooperation and collaboration. And in terms of the North-South dimension, there have been suggestions for improving transport, the need for clarity on the rights of frontier workers, and the need for regular meetings and forums to discuss these issues. And what has been notable in this survey is that without having to focus on the lack of an executive, respondents are now able to draw attention to concrete local proposals which will materially improve cross-border cooperation. But one, as an example, has said that they would like to see funding mentors to help voluntary organisation work through the complexity of cross-border funding applications. And another said that there should be space to network and understand what is happening elsewhere, and would love a dedicated conference on the networking opportunities for rural organisations specifically. If we look now towards the East-West dimension, this quarter only 40% of response reports having meetings with organisations in Great Britain. And what is perhaps more concerning is that for 77% of organisations, this is the same level as the last quarter, and only 13% of reports that the level of contact has improved on the previous quarter. And so, while the environment for Northern Irish contacts and just that general sense of engagement remains very robust, we are consistently seeing the East-West dimension lag behind that. And 83% of respondents have reported that meetings with partners in Great Britain discuss challenges on occasion for 75%, and to a significant extent for 8%. And these were predominantly focused on issues around post-Brexit trade arrangements and the lack of awareness of Great Britain in Northern Irish matters. And one has said that staffing and funding to enable this to take place with intentional effort rather than on an ad hoc basis. So they need essentially a dedicated staffing team or dedicated resource to engage East-West rather than just doing it as and when things become available. And the needs to be better connected to research institutions, but they're lacking the resource to coordinate and make that happen. Another has said that discussions tend to focus on GB groups telling us that they don't know enough about Northern Ireland and that they would like to engage more with Northern Ireland to improve their cooperation. However, it does seem to be expected that Northern Irish organisations reach out and travel to Great Britain rather than organisations in GB doing the proactive work to cooperate and reach out to Northern Ireland. And they say that this is particularly true in London-based organisations. This quarter, 47% of respondents have said that they are currently involved in collaboration with a GB-based organisation, and 50% of respondents are actively considering new collaborative projects. So again, it's still ongoing, but it's not as strong and robust as the North-South dimension. And part of the reason for this is that only 29% of respondents currently engaged in East-West collaboration have reported that their organisation is in funding for these projects specifically. And this lack of funding available for East-West collaboration and cooperation is something that requires urgent political attention, particularly from London. And now that Stormont is back up and running, hopefully there is going to be the impetus to take more concrete steps there as well. Looking to the East-West political context, 57% of respondents believe that it has remained the same on the previous quarter, and 23% said it's improved. So again, we are still seeing this general sense of positivity in the political context, both north-south and east-west. And when we've asked respondents to expand on this, they pointed to the restoration of Stormont as leading to improvements, but that Brexit and the conduct of the UK government towards Northern Ireland is causing issues. So one has said that the Stormont breakthrough has helped to clear major obstacles, but another has said that the Northern Irish Legacy Act has destabilised East-West relations. If we look to the social context, 70% of respondents say that it's remained the same on the previous quarter, and 20% say that it's improved. And when we've asked to develop on that, one respondent said that political breakthrough helps us on the ground, and another has said that the key steps have been to engage positive engagement with all sectors of the United Kingdom and Ireland, and these can improve positively and significantly on both sides, but that it requires political work and will in order to do so. Turning to the regulatory context, 70% of respondents say that it's stayed the same over the previous quarter, and 17% saying it's improved. So again, the general sense is one of either continuity or improvement. There is very little by way of a sense of deteriorating conditions. And when we look to the material context, 70% report that it has remained the same on last quarter, and 70% say that they do not know how it has changed. Slightly less positive, but again, not an outright deterioration. Excuse me. One respondent has said that public funding context for East-West cooperation is not easily accessible for charity and voluntary sector organisations, and also the general financial crisis, the financial situation in Northern Ireland and in UK local authorities is particularly challenging. When we've asked for particularly suggestions for improvement in terms of the East-West dimension, one person has said that there needs to be positive work across the lines to enhance opportunities. Even if the UK and EU split will continue, it can be used to work towards collaboration, and that any improvement in UK and EU relations will be beneficial for the Irish-UK relationship. One participant specifically said that they would like to see sail rail from Rosslare to Wales in order to improve East-West relations and that material connectivity. Now, following the restoration of the Assembly, we've asked specifically in this round of the survey what changes they have already started to notice and what they would like to see from the new Assembly and Executive. And now, in the report that's on the website, there's a much more comprehensive list of these responses. But just for a selection here, one has said that it's too early to say whether there have been practical changes affecting North-South or East-West relations, but it would be important for the Northern Irish Executive and all those in it to show their full commitment to all strands of the GFA and to make that commitment show in practical results. Another said, I think there is a sense of optimism and would like to see a progressive Bill of Rights and legislation to bring Northern Ireland up to the best human rights standards on these islands. Another has said that mood music has improved and there's a sense of hope, but that a more mature approach by media outlets would help, and feel that there are certain media outlets that are undermining the progress that's being made. And another has said that greater opportunities for engagement with public representatives and more impetus around policy development would be welcome, but it's all very encouraging. Now, in addition to all of these questions, we've just asked for any further comments from participants and what they feel that would be useful. One has said that much good work is taking place in terms of sport engagement, so in terms of rugby and GAA interactions. In terms of decision-making, they've said that there is a need for a strategic project like rail to Derry along the Western Corridor, and saying that the breaking of the rail links had a political impact in the 50s and 60s, and the legacy of that is still impeding cross-border communities, and recognising that while rail projects are expensive and difficult to promote, but they do have a positive effect and a long-term payoff. So just bringing this summary to a conclusion, there is a very clear takeaway from this survey. The return of the Executive in Assembly at Stormont has led to markedly increased optimism, both in terms of the North-South and East-West dimensions. And this is the first survey we've done in the last 3 years where several of the contextual questions have found absolutely no sense of decline or deterioration in the environment. This is obviously to be welcomed completely, and all parties need to be credited for being able to work through challenges and restore these institutions. But this early promise needs to be lived up to. There is a lot of positive new music. There is a lot of optimism. It is now incumbent on Stormont to live up to this potential. The respondents in this survey have provided several concrete and achievable suggestions for improving the conditions for cooperation and collaboration, both north, south, and east, west, from improved material infrastructure to mentoring schemes and support in accessing the funding that is available, to the need to provide more funding. And so that brings us on to the one area of concern that really does remain and has been a long-standing area of concern, is that the context for north-south cooperation remains far stronger than that of east-west. And I'm just going to finish to that end, once again emphasising the need for the UK government to introduce and promote initiatives to encourage east-west cooperation, and crucially to provide funding in order to support and underpin these initiatives. And with that, I am going to finish up and hand back to Anthony. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ben. I'll stop sharing the screen now. Thank you so much, Ben. And yeah, look, and it's great. We can't get over the fact that the restoration of the Strand 1 institution, so the Assembly and the Executive in Northern Ireland, really, you can see that coming through so strongly in the results for this quarterly survey, which, just to remind people, January to the end of March, that was a period that we were looking at. And Ben just mentioned there in the conclusion that we really do need to see that positivity end up in practical results, that all of the actors, all of the parties have now got to exploit that positivity, exploit the fact that the institutions, so Strand 1, and obviously because we have an executive and assembly, and I saw this was coming through in the responses and will be in the research briefing, the fact that now we also have a North-South Ministerial Council operating now again at the political level, ministers meeting. We've had already a plenary meeting of the North-South Ministerial Council. Sectoral meetings have begun as well. So ministers coming together from the two administrations of the island of Ireland. But we need to see that now come through in terms of practical results, which, yeah, we can't deny that, let's say, that sense of optimism has to become something concrete. And we also saw Ben, that kind of spillover effect, the positivity to the political context. So for the first time ever, and you reminded me, yeah, this is now the third year of these surveys. And this is the first time ever not a single respondent said that the political context has deteriorated, and that kind of transfers over, it spills over into the social context, because the political context is good, it's positive. There's also that positive feeling towards the social context in terms of community support for cooperation, particularly on a north-south basis. That comes through strongly.
Yeah. But I think that's been a really interesting thing coming through, is that now that organisations aren't having to firefight, and they're not focused on the absence of Stormont as being an impediment to do things, they're able to get back to what they do best and come up with concrete local solutions that will help progress things. And so as long as Stormont can listen to these things and take them forward, then it gives a good chance to live up to this optimism.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to take away from positivity in any way whatsoever, but just noted in terms of when you give a breakdown of the respondents and which jurisdiction they were from, and there is a predominance now of organisations based in the south, in the Republic of Ireland. Obviously still a strong presence of organisations in from Northern Ireland, but it's kind of, I remember we were worried earlier on during these surveys that it was the other way around. There's a predominance of Northern Ireland respondents, not that many from the Republic of Ireland, or it was kind of half and half to begin with, but then we saw kind of drop off from southern organisations and a stronger presence of Northern Ireland organisations. Now that seems kind of turned around, and I'm just wondering whether it's because, it could be because Northern Ireland, particularly community and voluntary sector organisations, the funding situation in the two jurisdictions is very, very different. We obviously have a really problematic budget in Northern Ireland. Lots of organisations seeing their funding cut, so perhaps they're preoccupied with bread and butter issues, like keeping the lights on, keeping people.
So it is a
in
risk. I
work.
think for the last two surveys, we've been fairly balanced. It's been about 45, 45 and 10 cross border. So I think wait for the next one or two surveys and see if there's a trend towards more respondents from the Republic. But generally speaking, I think we're getting a good balance and it's not a source of concern.
Yeah. And on the east-west dimension, you also point out, I mean, yes, there's a fair degree of positivity there in terms of the east-west dimension, but still, in terms of levels of contact, they're far, far below what the south contact is like. And I'm just wondering, because this has come through time and time and time again, respondents pointing out the lack of funding available to engage in east-west cooperation. That we've repeated, it comes through repeatedly, and I'm just wondering. Obviously, one of probably the main reason we've had the restoration of the institutions, the Strand 1 Institution Assembly and Executive, comes as a result of the Safeguarding the Union Command Paper, which is the result of negotiations between the UK government and the DUP, the Democratic Unionist Party. But that Safeguarding the Union paper has a variety of new kind of institutions on an east-west basis. You've got the UK East-West Council. There's a new UK Intertrade body. So new bodies for East-West, and I'm just hoping that that kind of attention paid to the East-West by the UK government transfers to a commitment to really looking how can we support organisations, community organisations,
it needs to be more than some kind of talisman that says, look, we're still thinking East-Western in terms of the UK. It needs to actually do something. It needs to have legs, it needs to have teeth, it needs to be able to do stuff rather than just represent stuff. And so I think that is one of the key things coming in, and particularly, as one of the respondents said, it's quite often put on Northern Irish organisations to reach out to Great Britain, and this needs to make clear that it's a two-way street, that GB organisations need to and should actively encourage. It's a great place. They should be looking and actively trying to reach out to Northern Ireland.
Absolutely, Ben. We're going to end it there. Just repeat. Yeah, Northern Ireland's a great place. Hello, Great Britain. come and visit. Come and have a chat with us. Yeah, we like going to GB, but it'd be great to see that kind of interest being seen in terms of those visits, people coming over to Northern Ireland to engage here and kind of see for themselves what Northern Ireland has to offer, and the entire island of Ireland in terms of that cooperation on a kind of wider East-West basis. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Goodbye.